Hello, dear students. I'm Dr. Nikita Valluri, working as an assistant professor in Sridatta Institute of Pharmacy. So, today I'm here to take a topic that is treatment of affective disorders. So, these affective disorders were classified into two types, that is, it's a combination of bipolar disorder and major depressive disorder. So, when we are starting with this treatment, we'll be studying the treatment of these two things, that is first is treatment of bipolar disorder and treatment of major depressive disorder. So first is treatment of bipolar disease. So mostly for treating these bipolar patients, they will be maintained on a mood stabilizer. Mainly the drugs which comes under mood stabilizers are lithium, sodium valproate and carbamazepine, and these should be used for a lifetime. So once they starts using this medication, more in most of the cases it is required to take that medication for lifelong. And during acute episodes, that means when it is very severe and a sudden onset at that time. So along with this, some like combination of drugs may be required and higher dose may be required. And later on, after treating this acute episode, again we'll taper the dose after stabilization. So this was the normal general approach for treating this bipolar disease. Coming to non-pharmacological therapy, so non-pharmacological approaches include psychotherapy. Psychotherapy means there will be counseling sessions will be there, that comes under psychotherapy. It may be individual, group, and family, and interpersonal therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT is nothing but cognitive behavioral therapy, and stress reduction techniques. So, to reduce the stress, some techniques will be there: relaxation therapy, massage, and yoga. So these comes under non-pharmacological. And sleep. So proper sleep is very much required for preventing these bipolar anxiety or depression episodes. So regular bedtime and awake schedule should be maintained. Avoid alcohol or caffeine intake prior to bedtime, because taking of alcohol and caffeine makes the patient more active. So that should be avoided at the bedtime. And nutrition, for proper nutrition, regular intake of protein rich foods or drinks and essential fatty acids is suggested, and also supplemental vitamins and minerals in order to make the brain more active. And exercise, regular aerobic and weight training at least 3 times a week. So, as the drugs which we are using in treating this bipolar disease or any psychiatric diseases, they cause weight gain. So, weight training should be done and regular aerobic exercises should be done. So, these were the non pharmacological approaches. So, first is psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, stress relaxations, and sleep, proper nutrition, and exercise. So, these were the things that we have to concentrate while dealing with these bipolar patients. So, then coming to general principles for the management of bipolar disease, goals of treatment. So, what are the goals of treatment? First, we have to eliminate this mood episode with complete remission of symptoms. With like what are the acute symptoms the patient is presented with, though that should be remission should be there. That means that should be suppressed, and also we should prevent the recurrence or relapses of mood episodes. So continuous, sometimes now they will be okay, and after again recurrent attacks will be coming. So we should be able to prevent these recurrent attacks. Return to complete psychological functioning, like the patient should be back to the normal psychosocial functioning. And maximum adherence with therapy, they should take medications in time regularly without skipping any dose. Minimize the adverse effects, because most of the psychiatric medications, they will be having a lot of any number of adverse effects. So we should by monitoring the patient regularly, we should take measures to prevent or to reduce these adverse effects. And use medications with best tolerability and fewest drug interactions. And treat comorbid substance use and abuse, like if they are taking in alcohol or if they are having any substance abuse or drug abuse, so that should be also treated. And eliminate alcohol, marijuana, cocaine. So these were the drug abuse, like cocaine, amphetamines, hallucinogens, so that shouldn't be avoided. That should be avoided. Minimize nicotine use and stop caffeine intake at least 8 hours prior to bedtime. Why? Because if they are taking caffeine, again they'll not be having proper sleep. So we should tell them to stop taking any coffee, or usually in the night times. And also minimize nicotine use if they are smokers. Avoidance of stressors or substances that precipitate an acute episode. So whatever the things that may are elevating, aggravating the patient to behave like a bipolar disorder or maniac behavior, that kind of stresses should be avoided. So these were the main goals of treatment. So first is eliminate mood episode, prevent recurrent attacks, return to complete psychosocial functioning, maximize medication adherence, minimize adverse effects, use medications with best tolerability and few drug interactions, and treat comorbid substance and drug abuse, eliminate alcohol, marijuana, tobacco, cocaine, amphetamines, and avoid stresses. So these were the goals of treatment of bipolar disorder. So what are the things that we should monitor when we are treating these patients? Bipolar disorders. So first, mood episodes. So whatever the mood behavioral changes, if they are showing, that should be documented. And what was the type of episode, so duration of this episode, and the treatment outcome, everything should be documented. Every monthly and yearly life chart should be maintained. And medication adherence, we should check whether they are taking the medications properly. Why? Because treatment failure is mainly due to medication non-adherence. So we have to be very much particular when we are checking their medications. And adverse effects, especially sedation and weight gain, was the main adverse effects. So that should be checked, and weight continuous, they should be maintained on weight training should be done. Suicidal ideation or attempts. So suicide completion rates with bipolar 1 disorder are 10 to 15%. So those who are having this bipolar disorder, they'll be having suicidal tendency. So especially with depression episodes or mixed episodes with severe depression or presence of psychosis. So we have to monitor the patient if he is having any suicidal ideations. So that are the things that we have to check, monitor. So here is an algorithm and guidelines for acute treatment of mood episodes in patients with bipolar 1 disorder. So acute manic or mixed episode. So the general guidelines include assess for secondary cause for mania or mixed states, that is alcohols or drug use if they are having any. Discontinue antidepressants and taper off stimulants and caffeine if possible. Treat substance abuse and encourage good nutrition, exercise, adequate sleep, stress reduction, and psychosocial therapy. When coming to this acute depressive episode, the general guidelines include assess for secondary cause of depression, that is alcohol and drug use, and we should stop or taper off antipsychotics, benzodiazepines, sedative hypnotic agents if possible. Why? Because they also cause depression as an adverse effect. And treat substance abuse if they are having any substance abuse, that should be treated. And also encourage good nutrition, exercise, adequate sleep, stress reduction, psychosocial therapy. So these were the general guidelines for treatment of mood episodes, whether it may be acute manic episode or depressive episode. And then coming, if it is hypomania, so first what we have to do, first we have to optimize current to mood stabilizer or initiate mood stabilizing agents like any lithium or valproate or carbamazepine or second generation antipsychotics. So first we have to start with some mood stabilizer and then consider adding benzodiazepine for short-term adjunctive treatment of agitation or insomnia if needed. If the patient is sleepless, complaining of sleeplessness and agitation, then to this mood stabilizer we have to add benzodiazepine, like it may be lorazepam or chlorazepam for short term. And then alternative medication treatment options include oxcarbazepine. If it is not responding to that, again, then we have to go for oxcarbazepine. And coming to mania, so first, 2 to 3 drugs combinations of a mood stabilizer should be given, whether it may be lithium, valproate, or second generation antipsychotic with benzodiazepine with or without antipsychotics for short-term adjunctive treatment of agitation or insomnia, and lorazepam is recommended for catatonia. If the patient is catatonic, then we have to add lorazepam. And do not combine antipsychotics. And next, alternative medication treatment options include carbamazepine. If patient does not respond to it or tolerate it, then we have to go for oxcarbazepine. And then mild to moderate depressive episode, for that, first we have to initiate mood stabilizing medication, whether it is lithium or quetiapine should be given for depression episode. And if it's not responding properly, then we have to go for alternative anticonvulsants like lamotrigine, valproate, antipsychotics, fluoxetine, olanzapine, or combination. And severe depressive episode, So first, optimize current mood stabilizer. Again, we have to initiate these second generation antipsychotics, mood stabilizing agents, lithium or quetiapine. Again, alternative fluoxetine or olanzapine combination. And if they do not come in antipsychotics, and alternative anticonvulsants like lamotrigine and valproate can be added for severe depressive episode. So this was a general approach for treating different types. So it is acute mania or acute depressive episode, for hypomania, mania, and mild to moderate depressive episode and severe depressive episode. So these were the things that generally we have to follow. If response is inadequate, two drug combination like lithium plus an anticonvulsant or second generation antipsychotic can be given. If response is inadequate, consider three drug combination lithium plus anticonvulsant plus antipsychotic, and anticonvulsant plus anticonvulsant and antipsychotic. Third, if response is inadequate, then we have to go for electroconvulsive therapy for mania with psychosis or catatonia, or treatment refractory illness, then we have to add clozapine. If response inadequate, consider three drug combination lithium plus lamotrigine plus antidepressant for major depressive disorder plus quetiapine plus antidepressant. So fourth, if response is inadequate, again we have to go for electroconvulsive therapy, and electroconvulsive therapy should be done for continuing of depression and catatonia. So, and then coming to lithium, lithium is the first drug of choice for which acts as a mood stabilizer, and extended release carbamazepine, aripiprazole, acinapine, olanzapine, quetiapine, risperidone. See, these were the drugs which were ziprasidone. So these were the drugs which were approved by FDA for treatment of acute mania. And for maintenance therapy, we'll be using lithium, divalproate, aripiprazole, olanzapine, and lamotrigine. And if the patient is having bipolar disorder with euphoric mania, then it's better to go for lithium. And if the patient is having mixed states and rapid cycling, it's better to go for valproate. And combination therapies is better when the patient is not responding properly, or when we have to treat this acute response. At that time, we can go for this combination therapies. And the most commonly used combinations were like lithium plus valproate or lithium plus carbamazepine, and lithium or valproate plus second generation antipsychotics. These were the common combinations which we use for acute responses. And in coming to lithium, it is rapidly absorbed and it is excreted unchanged in the urine, and it may require 6 to 8 weeks to show antidepressant efficacy. So proper antidepressant effect will be shown after taking this lithium for 6 to 8 weeks. That means near about 2 months, and it's more effective for elated mania and less effective in so if the patient is having any alcohol or drug abuse, then the patient may not respond properly to lithium. And maintenance therapy is more effective in patients with fewer episodes. So when we are like lithium can be used for maintenance therapy also if the patient is having fewer episodes, and it reduces the risk, suicidal risk by 8 to 10 folds, and it also reduces suicidal tendency of the patient. And lithium augmentation of carbamazepine, lamotrigine, valproate can improve response in bipolar 1 patients, but it will cause the sudden side effects like sedation, weight gain, GI complaints, and tremors. Tremors are nothing but seizures like activity. So, combining this lithium with first generation antipsychotics in elderly patients has been reported to cause neurotoxicity. If we are combining lithium with first generation antipsychotic, that too in elderly patients, then it causes neurotoxicity like delirium, tremors, cerebellar dysfunction, extrapyramidal symptoms that can be seen if it is combined with first generation antipsychotic, that too in elderly patients. So before, if we are going to start this, go with this electroconvulsive therapy, then we have to stop lithium 2 days before only. And again, after the treatment also, we have to start only after 2 to 3 days after starting this electroconvulsive therapy. And combining lithium with verapamil or diltiazem cause neurotoxicity and bradycardia. So if you're combining this lithium with verapamil or diltiazem, it causes bradycardia, and that is decreased heart rate and neurotoxicity. The initial side effects are mostly dose related, and they will worsen at peak serum concentrations. At higher serum concentrations, the side effects will be more. And lower the dose, taking smaller doses with food by we can, so how can we reduce this adverse effects? By lowering the dose, by taking the drug along with some food, and using extended release products or once daily doses at bedtime. So by changing to these change by considering these points, we may reduce the side effects. So generally the dose of lithium is 600 mg per day for prophylaxis, and for treatment of acute mania the dose is 900 to 1200 mg per day. So if we are giving these immediate release preparations, then we have to give at a dose range of 2 or 3 times daily, that is a BD or TID. If we are giving extended release, we can give it as once or twice daily dose, OD or BD. So after the patient is stabilized from the acute mania, then we can switch to once daily dosing, that to at bedtime. So first we have to check this. Initially, we have to check this. Therapeutic drug monitoring should be done. That means we have to check the serum concentration of lithium, and once or twice weekly we have to check. And after a desired concentration is achieved, again we have to check the levels in 2 weeks. And when stable, we have to check them for every 3 to 6 months. So regular monitoring of serum lithium should be done. Lithium concentration should be done. Why? Because at peak concentrations it causes n number of side effects. To prevent that, we have to regularly monitor the concentration, serum concentration of lithium. So this is all about lithium. And then anticonvulsants like valproate sodium, which is a salt form of valproic acid. So generally it is the most prescribed mood stabilizer in United States. And when we are combining valproate with lithium, it shows some synergistic effects, and it will be very much beneficial for maintenance therapy of bipolar 1 disorder. And if we are combining valproate with carbamazepine, uh, although though it shows some synergistic effects, but there is more risk of getting drug interactions. And whenever it is combined with second generation antipsychotics for breakthrough mania, we'll be using this combination, but there is a risk of sedation and weight gain. And when it is combined with lamotrigine, that which is an anticonvulsant, so at that time it causes certain side effects like rashes, ataxia, tremor, sedation, and fatigue. So the dose-related side effects of valproic acid include GI complaints, spine tremors, and sedation. Other than that, like other side effects, like least common side effects include ataxia, lethargy, alopecia, that is hair loss, pruritus is nothing but itching, prolonged bleeding, transient increase in liver enzymes, so weight gain and hyperammonemia. So these were the other side effects of taking valproic acid. And fatal necrotizing hepatitis is rare and idiosyncratic, occurring in children or multiple anticonvulsants. So, on multiple anticonvulsants. So, fatal necrotizing hepatitis is a major side effect which can be seen in children, and it is idiosyncratic. And also, it causes life threatening pancreatitis in some cases. It was also reported that it causes life threatening pancreatitis. So, these were the a few topics, a few points to be remembered when we are going with valproic acid. So the dosing includes, so initial doses 250 to 500 mg twice daily, that is BD. So first we have to start with the loading dose of 20 to 30 mg per kg per day of divalproate, which can be given over 12 hours. So this is the loading dose. After we are giving this a single loading dose, again we'll be starting with normal daily dosing. So it is adjusted by 250 to 500 mg every 1 to 3 days based on the response and the tolerability. The maximum dose is 60 mg per kg per day. So after establishing the optimal dose, it can be given either twice daily dose or a single dose at bedtime if tolerated. So this is how we'll be giving this valproic acid. And extended release, if we are giving it as extended release tablet, then it can be given as once daily, but the bioavailability will be a bit less compared to normal immediate release products. But it's better to go for extended release even though the bioavailability is less. Why? Because if we are taking this extended release, we can go for once daily dose instead of twice daily. And then we are giving this sodium valproate. These clinicians, what will they do? They will check the serum concentration range, and it should be between 50 to 125 mcg per ml, which is measured 12 hours after the last dose. And patients with cyclothymia or bipolar 2 disorder, so they respond even at the lower blood levels of drug, that is lower serum concentration of these valproate also. So at that time also, the patients who are having bipolar 2 disorder, they will be responding very good. When coming to the severe forms, they require at least 150 mcg per ml to give response to get responded to treatment. So this is about valproate. And coming to carbamazepine, it is commonly used for acute and maintenance therapy. So generally carbamazepine, so initially we won't be starting with carbamazepine only if the patients who are not responding to lithium or lithium refractory patients. So in that cases we'll be going with carbamazepine. And also rapid cyclers. Rapid cyclers means who are getting repeated episodes of acute mania. So they are called as rapid cyclers or mixed states. So in that conditions, we have to go for this carbamazepine. And carbamazepine, when it is combined with nimodipine, then it will be beneficial for refractory patients. And during the first month of treatment, first the serum concentrations may be decreased because of auto induction. It has a process, it undergoes auto induction. So because of that, whatever the dose we are giving, first serum concentration will be decreased initially and later on it will be increased. Because of this auto induction, initially it requires higher doses, right? When coming to oxcarbazepine, so it's also a mood stabilizing agent, but it is not FDA approved. But it has very much less side effects. The benefit of oxcarbazepine is it does not have any auto induction. So because of that, low dose is also sufficient. The side effects include dizziness, sedation, headache, ataxia, fatigue, vertigo, abnormal vision, diplopia, vomitings, and abdominal pain. And also, it has a side effect of hyponatremia, which is seen with oxcarbazepine, and which is very much less likely seen in carbamazepine. So, initial dosing is 150 to 300 mg twice daily, and it can be increased by 300 to 600 mg every 3 to 6 days up to 1200 mg per day in divided doses with or without food. So initial dose is 150 to 300 mg and till we can increase till 1200 mg per day. Okay. So this is all about oxcarbazepine. It does not show any autoinduction, but it has a main side effect of hyponatremia compared to carbamazepine. So carbamazepine is mainly used for lithium refractory patients and recyclers, rapid cyclers. So in that cases, we'll be going for carbamazepine or oxcarbazepine. And then coming to antipsychotics, as you know, as you already seen in schizophrenia, it has first generation, second generation antipsychotics. So the main drugs which we can be used for acute mania include aripiprazole, esnapen, haloperidol, olanzapine, quetiapine, risperidone, ziprasidone. So either of these, like all of among all these drugs, we can use either as a monotherapy or we can combine it with lithium or valproate for treating this acute mania. So when we are giving these long-term antipsychotics, we have to check this risk versus risk-benefit ratio. We have to check. Why? Because they have many side effects. So we have to be very careful when we are giving these antipsychotics. Only when the benefit is more compared to risk, then only we have to go with this antipsychotics. Generally, quetiapine and combination of fluoxetine and olanzapine were generally used for acute bipolar depression. And initial higher dose of antipsychotics, for example, 20 mg per day of olanzapine is required for treating acute mania. And after the mania is controlled, the dose can be tapered and then slowly it can be discontinued if the patient is stable. And alternative treatment include clonazepam and lorazepam. So these were the alternative treatment for acute mania and agitation, anxiety, panic, and insomnia. So these were the drugs, other alternative medications. And if the patient is more agitated, then we can give this IM lorazepam can be given to control the patient then and there. Coming to the evaluation of therapeutic outcomes, so patients who are with partial response or non-response to therapy, they have to be reassessed for diagnosis, and we have to check this concomitant medical or psychiatric conditions and medications which are exacerbating the mood symptoms, and again we have to recounsel the patient and involve the patients and family members in treatment to monitor target symptoms. So why? Because the patient is not always aware of what's going on in and around. So we have to include their family members to monitor the target symptoms, response, and side effects to enhance adherence and reduce stresses. And standardized rating scales may be useful in monitoring for response. The proper scales should be used to monitor their response. So these were the evaluation of therapeutic outcomes of bipolar disorder. So this is all about how we treat this bipolar disorder. And so next, treatment of depression, that is major depressive disorder. So the goals include reduce the symptoms of depression, minimize adverse effects, ensure adherence to medications, facilitate return to pre-morbid functioning or normal psychosocial functioning, prevent further depressive episodes. That means recurrent attacks should be prevented. So the drugs which we generally use for treatment of depression include serotonin reuptake inhibitors, serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, tricyclic antidepressants like citalopram, escitalopram, fluoxetine, paroxetine, sertraline. So these were the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors include duloxetine, venlafaxine, and desvenlafaxine. Tricyclic antidepressants like amitriptyline, desipramine, doxepin, imipramine, nortriptyline. So these were the common drugs which we use generally for treating this depression. Then coming to non-pharmacological treatment, so as you know, psychotherapy, that means for major depressive episode, then we have to go for, so for mild to moderate, then we can go for the psychotherapy, that is counseling the patient using certain tool to guide them. And if it can be used only for mild to moderate, and if it is severe, then we have to go for this electroconvulsive therapy. Apart from psychotherapy, other methods like cognitive therapy, behavioral therapy, interpersonal psychotherapy or also provides better outcomes. And for treating the severe major depressive disorders, then we have to go for electroconvulsive therapy. And when the rapid response is needed, only at that time we have to go for this. And a rapid therapeutic response should be attained within 10 to 14 days if you're going for this electroconvulsive therapy. And repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation was also found to be more efficient, which and it does not require anesthesia, which where in case of electroconvulsive therapy you require anesthesia. In case of transcranial magnetic stimulation, you does not require any anesthesia. So nowadays, it's the better choice is to go for transcranial magnetic stimulation. So there is a treatment algorithm for treating this major depressive disorder. If it is uncomplicated, physically health outpatient without any contraindication to any specific class of antidepressants, then the choice of drug is selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And if the trial is failed due to non-response or limiting adverse effects, so because of unresponse or because of any more side effects, then we have to ensure medication adherence. That means we have to ask whether the patient is taking medication regularly or not. And then we have to switch to alternative agent if the patient is regularly taking medication, and also if the patient is not responding properly, then we have to switch to alternative SSRIs or non-SSRI antidepressant. Again, if it is failed, then again we have to change to another alternative agent. And if there is partial response after maximizing the dose, then we have to consider augmentation. That means we have to add some other drug like mood stabilizer should be added, or thyroid hormone, lithium, and atypical antipsychotics can be added. And response or remission, if the patient is responding or remission, then we have to maintain for at least 4 to 9 months to continue the medications. And if necessary, we have to ask the patient to continue it for 1 year to 2 3 years for maintenance therapy. And if there is partial response after taking the first SSRIs, then again we have to ask consider augmentation. That means we have to we have to give combination therapy with lithium, thyroid hormones, or atypical antipsychotics, or we have to switch to alternative agent. And if the trial is failed, then we have to switch to alternative agent. If there is partial response, we have to consider augmentation. And if there is response or remission is there, then we have to continue the medication for 4 to 9 months for continuation, and 1 to 3 years for maintenance therapy. And if there is response, if the patient is responding properly with the first SSRIs, then we have to maintain for at least 4 to 9 months for continuation. And also, if necessary, we can continue this medication for 1 to 3 years for maintenance therapy. So this is a treatment algorithm for treating these major depressive disorders. And so these were the adverse effects, selective side effects profile for antidepressants. So reuptake antagonism can be seen. This is a serotonin. Anticholinergic side effects: sedation, orthostatic hypotension, tremors, tremors. So these were the different drugs. Plus more risk. Zero means no effect, no that effect. Plus means one. So this is the chart. Once go through this chart. So this is a general dosing guidelines for different drugs. So SSRIs like citalopram, it is available in the brand name Celexa, and the dose is 20 mg initial dose, and usual doses it is available as 20 to 40 mg. And if the doses is greater than 40 mg per day, it is not recommended. Why? Because it causes QT prolongation. So that is the reason we should not give more than 40 mg per day. Escitalopram, it is available as Lexapro, and initial dose is 10 mg and usual dosage is 10 to 20 mg. Maximum 20 mg maybe per day can be given. Usually 5 mg tablet is available for unique circumstances. Fluoxetine, it is available in the form of Prozac. Initial dose 20 mg, usual dose is 20 to 60 mg, maximum 80 mg per day can be given. And if it is required, we can increased in 20 mg increments. That means we have to start with 20 mg and slowly we have to increase the dose by 20 by adding 20 mg. So it can be given as a single dose or a single or once daily dose or twice daily. Fluoxamine, it's available as Luvox and its initial dose is 50 mg. Usual dose is 50 to 300 mg. Maximum dose is 300 mg per day. So greater than 100 mg total dose, if it is there, then we have to divide it like once daily, twice daily, or thrice daily. It's better to give it more at night times. Paroxetine, Paxil, 20 mg is initial dose, and dose range is 20 to 60 mg. Maximum 50 mg per day. Immediate release. IR means immediate release. CR means controlled release. Sertraline, Zoloft 50 mg, 50 to 200. Maximum dose is 200 mg per day. So start first we have to, if we are starting with 50 mg, slowly we have to increase it by 25 mg per day increments for every week. On a weekly basis, we can increase. And serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors like venlafaxine, duloxetine. So the doses is up to 400 mg per day. So duloxetine maximum 120 mg per day. Starting dose is 30 mg, Cymbalta and Effexor. Maximum 375 mg per day immediate release, and extended release means 225 mg per day. So slowly 75 mg per day can be increased for every 4 days. So if there is when we are giving this venlafaxine, it causes sustained hypertension. So if there is sustained hypertension, then we have to reduce the dose for when we are giving this venlafaxine. And tricyclic antidepressants like amitriptyline, Elavil, it's 25 mg initial dose, 100 to 300 mg range, maximum 300 mg per day. Desipramine, norpramine, 25 mg is initial dose. Usual dose range is 100 to 300 mg per day. Maximum 300 mg per day can be given. And doxepin, it is available in the form of Cinequan, 25 mg is initial dose. Maximum dose is 300 mg per day. Imipramine, tofranil, initial dose 25 mg per day, maximum dose is 300 mg per day. Nortriptyline, Pamilon, it is 25 mg is initial dose, 50 to 150 mg per day uh, is the usual dose range, and maximum is 150 mg per day. So when we are giving this, we have to check this serum therapeutic serum concentrations also we have to check. Norepinephrine and dopamine reuptake inhibitors like bupropion. So 150 mg is initial dose, 150 to 300 mg is the usual dose range. So maximum 450 mg per day can be given immediate release or extended release. Sustained release means 400 mg per day once daily or twice daily can be given. IR maybe if it is immediate release, we have to give it either twice daily or thrice daily. So here is an explanation of venlafaxine because it caused dose-related increase in diastolic blood. So increase in diastolic blood pressure can be seen. So if it is causing any sustained hypertension, then we have to discontinue or we have to reduce the dose. And other side effects include nausea, dry mouth, constipation, decreased appetite, insomnia, and increased sweating. Mirtazapine, the side effects of it include somnolence, weight gain, dry mouth, and constipation. Trazodone and efazodone cause minimal anticholinergic effects like sedation, dizziness, and orthostatic hypotension. So these were dose limiting side effects. So that means we can reduce the dose in order to prevent, in order to limit these side effects. Then coming to drug-drug interactions, like tricyclic antidepressants, if we are giving this, they may interact with other drugs which may modify cytochrome P450 and increase the plasma concentrations of TCAs, and symptoms of toxicity may be seen when it is combined with fluoxetine and paroxetine, and they cannot be easily eliminated. So it becomes very much critical to ensure 5-week washout after fluoxetine discontinuation before starting in MAO inhibitors. So before starting MAO inhibitor, we should wait for 5 weeks without giving any medication. So that would be very much difficult. And they can be combined in refractory patients like tricyclic antidepressants and MAO inhibitors with careful monitoring. And combining these SSRIs with another 5-HT augmenting agent can lead to serotonin syndrome. So these were the drug interactions. Then coming to evaluation of therapeutic outcomes in major depressive disorder. So several monitoring parameters like plasma concentrations, also and the patient's output, response, all should be identified, monitored. And also we have to monitor for any adverse effects, remission of the target symptoms, changes in the social or occupational functioning. And we have to assure regular monitoring for several months after discontinuation of antidepressants also. And regular monitoring blood pressure of patients given venlafaxine. Why? Because it causes sustained hypertension. So when we are giving a venlafaxine, we have to regularly monitor the blood pressure, and also especially the diastolic blood pressure. And order a pre-treatment ECG before starting tricyclic antidepressant therapy. So before starting tricyclic antidepressants, we have to go for ECG, especially in patients over 40 years of age. And after that also we have to periodically we have to check for these ECGs. Why? Because it may cause QT prolongations. And monitor for emergence of suicidal ideation after initiation of any antidepressants, especially in the first weeks of treatment. And in addition to this clinical interview, we also you should use some certain scales, standard scales to assess the patient. Psychometric rating instruments to rapidly and reliably measure the nature and severity of depressive and associated symptoms. So we have to use certain scales to assess the patient's improvement with this treatment. So these were the evaluation of therapeutic outcomes of major depressive disorder. So this is all about the treatment of bipolar disorder and major depressive disorder. All together comes as an affective disorders or mood disorders. So this is all about the treatment of affective disorders. And I hope everybody is clear with this, and thank you all.